The knock on the door wasn't loud, but it carried the kind of weight that makes your chest tighten before you even know why. I opened it to find our landlord, Mr. Harding, standing there with his lips pressed into a flat line. His eyes flicked past me, into the apartment I'd spent years turning into a home. "We need to talk," he said, voice firm but uneasy. I stepped aside, confused. "Of course. What's going on?" He came in, removed his cap, and looked at me as though I were already guilty of something. "Your wife came to me yesterday. She said you've been hurting her, yelling, breaking things, that she doesn't feel safe here." For a moment, it felt like my blood stopped moving. The words didn't make sense, like hearing someone claim the sky had turned green. My wife? My Emily? The woman I'd shared breakfasts with, the woman who used to fall asleep on my chest during late-night movies. She'd told him that? "There's been some mistake," I whispered, my voice too weak for the storm roaring in my head. But Harding only shook his head. "I can't take chances with this. I'm going to have to ask you to leave by the end of the month." When he left, the silence in our apartment was unbearable. Every photo on the wall, our wedding picture, our trip to the coast, the silly shot of us wearing matching pajamas, suddenly looked staged, like props in a play I hadn't realized I was acting in. I waited for Emily to come home, rehearsing what I'd say. Maybe she'd been stressed. Maybe she'd exaggerated something in the heat of the moment. There had to be a reason. She wouldn't just invent something like that. When she finally walked through the door, grocery bag in hand, I studied her face. She looked tired, distracted, but calm. Not like someone who had just set fire to our lives. I said carefully. "The landlord came by today." Her shoulders stiffened. She set the bag down without looking at me. "He said you told him I've been abusive." For a split second, guilt flickered across her face. But then she shrugged, her voice steady. "I had to. It's the only way." "The only way for what?" I demanded. My throat felt raw. She finally met my eyes. And what I saw there wasn't fear, it was calculation. "I want you out. You don't get it, do you? We're done." I couldn't see another way to make it happen quickly. Her words ripped through me sharper than any blade. "We're done." Just like that. No late-night talks about what went wrong. No tears, no attempts to fix it. Just a quiet, cold decision. I stumbled back a step. "So you lied? You told him I hurt you so he'd kick me out? Do you have any idea what that could do to me?" Her jaw tightened. "Do you have any idea what it's like living with someone I don't love anymore? Every day feels like a prison sentence. I'm sorry, but I can't keep pretending." I wanted to shout, to demand an explanation. But my voice broke before it could climb that far. "Emily, you could have just told me. You didn't have to destroy me." Her eyes softened, for just a moment, but then hardened again. "You'll land on your feet. You always do." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last year. The way she'd been on her phone late at night, turning it face down when I walked into the room. The sudden business trips. The fading warmth in her touch. I had noticed it all but buried it under hope. I told myself marriages had phases, that love ebbed and flowed. I clung to denial like a shield. Now the shield was gone, and all I could see were the cracks I'd ignored. The next morning, I called an old friend, Mark. I needed to hear someone else's voice. Someone who knew me better than the stranger my wife was painting me as. When I told him what happened, there was a pause on the other end. "Man, I don't know how to tell you this, but I've seen her. With someone else. I didn't want to hurt you, so I stayed quiet. But if she's going this far..." The world tilted again. My knees buckled, and I sat down hard on the couch. "Who?" I croaked. He sighed. "Some guy from her work. I saw them a couple of times at a cafe, holding hands. It wasn't friendly." I hung up before he could say more. My chest felt like it was splitting in two. Not only had she betrayed me, she'd weaponized a lie to erase me from our life. When she came home that evening, I didn't wait. "Who is he?" I asked. Her face drained of color, and that was all the answer I needed. "You could have just left," I whispered, my hands trembling. "You could have told me you didn't love me anymore. But instead you painted me as a monster." Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice stayed firm. I didn't know how else to end it. I was scared you'd hold on, that you'd fight to fix something I knew was already dead. Her confession didn't bring relief. It only deepened the wound. Emily, I would have fought for us. Because that's what love means. But you didn't even give me the chance. You chose betrayal over honesty. She looked down, silent. And in that silence, I realized there was nothing left to salvage. The following week, I packed my bags. Each item felt like a piece of myself being stripped away. The landlord gave me sympathetic eyes, but they did nothing to dull the ache. On my last night in the apartment, I stood in the doorway, staring at the hollow space that once held laughter, arguments, and whispered promises. I thought of the man I was when I moved in, full of trust, love, and belief in forever. That man was gone now. Emily didn't come out to say goodbye. I didn't expect her to. As I closed the door behind me, I felt the weight of finality press down. I was walking away not just from a home, but from the illusion I had lived in for years. Betrayal doesn't just end love. It rewrites the past, corrupting even the happiest memories. But as I stepped into the cool night air, suitcase in hand, a strange clarity settled over me. She had tried to erase me with lies, to reduce me to a villain in her story. But the truth lived inside me. And the truth was this. I loved her with everything I had. It wasn't my love that failed. It was her honesty. I walked away with my head high, scarred but not broken. Because sometimes survival isn't about winning back what was lost. It's about refusing to let betrayal define who you are. And in that moment I swore to myself, I would rebuild. Not for her, not for anyone else, but for me.